This morning's House vote is already the subject of ads in swing districts as the Republicans' narrow House majority hangs in the balance. With us for more is Juanita Tolliver, MSNBC political analyst and the author of the book, A More Perfect Party. Also with us is Reed Galen, who's worked on a number of GOP campaigns and now is the president of JoinTheUnion.us and the host of the Homefront podcast. Juanita, do you agree with Hakeem Jeffries that this bill signals a good omen for Democrats going forward into the midterms, that their chances are improved after all of this?
I mean, Melissa, quite frankly, if they don't fumble the bag, and I say that in the context of you can't just rely on Trump and Republicans being horrible, inhumane people who prioritize billionaires and corporations over regular people who are working and struggling day to day. Because what we have seen in the past is that's not enough to mobilize and motivate voters. Democrats still have to do the work of presenting a positive vision. And I say vision because they have to go beyond just making people whole again after this little bill that we just saw pass the House. They have to realize that people are already struggling before that takes effect. And so doing more to let the public know what they would have in store, what their perspectives would be, how they're improving people's lives tangibly is going to be critical, because elections are all about what have you done for me lately and what will you do for me in the future.
The Janet Jackson credo of elections. Reed, we mentioned this earlier, but former Chicago mayor and former Obama White House chief of staff Rahm Emanuel said today in an op-ed, quote, "This will likely be the most significant piece of legislation to pass during Trump's term and should be understood by the public in one phrase: tax cuts for the wealthy, health care cuts for the many." Is this message likely to resonate, or do you agree with Juanita that it has to be paired with a more positive and affirmative message about what the Democrats are doing for their constituents?
Well, it appears that Juanita was reading my note cards before we went on the air, because I feel the exact same way. Being anti-Trump, being anti-Republican in 2024 wasn't enough. There's plenty of things to be upset about the things he's going to do, the things that they are doing. But Juanita's absolutely right. And you can say this is good for billionaires and bad for the average American, and you'd be right about that too. But I think that what Juanita's point about vision, I think, is really important, because this is about a time in the next 529 days, right? This is not tomorrow. This is more than a year and a half away, that the Democratic Party has to rebuild its legitimacy, not only with swing voters in a lot of these places, but frankly with millions of its own voters that they have not done. And they are not making those people happy. The other part, too, is, OK, you retake the House next year. So what? Great. You're going to shut down the government because you don't want to pass a budget for Trump. Like, that's just not a good message. Where are the governors and people at the state level who are going to figure out what are mutual aid things going to look like? How about thinking a little bit outside the box and not relying on polling and focus groups, because that's what you always do, because it's the safest thing. From my perspective, Juanita is 100% right. You guys have not learned anything in 10 years dealing with this guy. And I will also say, lastly, take your Adderall. You guys have ADHD of the worst kind. You'll be talking about this today. He'll do something crazy tomorrow, and you'll be talking about that.
I feel targeted, Reed. Juanita, the House has passed this bill, and now it is headed over to the Senate for reconciliation. Is this going to get messy? And if it does get messy, is it going to be regular mess or Real Housewives reunion kind of mess?
I mean, I hope for the latter, Melissa, because I think that, one, I don't have much confidence in Senate Republicans to stand up to Donald Trump, to modify anything in the benefit for the public, all for the sake of him making these changes for the ultra wealthy and corporations. But I do think that there is a way for Democrats to drag out this process that highlights for the public what explicitly is happening, because what we did see on the House side, a lot of those proceedings happened in the dead of night. Most of the public wasn't aware of these 1 a.m. congressional hearings, these 4 a.m. votes, things that even members of Congress were sleeping through and missing votes. But I do think there's an opportunity for Senate Democrats to try to clog the pipes on this. If they cannot stop it, because of course they do not have the numbers to do that in the Senate, they can slow it down and put on a show for the general public to fully understand what is being taken from them, how their lives will be impacted. People living in rural communities, people living with disabilities, people earning lower incomes who might have more hoops to jump through in order to access health care, access basic benefits, access things that will impact their ability to feed their families through nutritional programs. I think that's should be a critical mission for Democrats because, like I said, they don't have the numbers, but they can sure make this a messy, messy endeavor for Republicans and Trump, because this is something that we know they're attacking provisions that are deeply popular in this country, provisions that help children, provisions that help seniors. That's a message they need to drive home in real time. And it's yet another opportunity for them to show voters how they are fighting for them in this moment.